Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. Another light in this darkened world. I am your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Zublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Chris Montgomery, Skip Press, Tom Althouse, Jessica Garza, Edward Medallion, Dr. Keith Abloh, and TJ Ward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, begins now. And welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. My name is Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. I can't scroll down on the StreamYard board to put our background up, but we are here. So I'm here with Jen, and she is my co-host, and Skip Press for America's Golden Eon, AGE. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm excited about this week.
Me too.
Good. We've had a long run here, and we've got a couple more stops to go. And this one is a very important one because we're talking about history, and the history that the media has not painted, but one that we'll try to take care of.
Thanks.
True.
Very important.
So, well, we're going to be starting with one of my favorite presidents in the whole entire universe, and that is Donald J. Trump. And for now, we're going to start with America's Golden Eon, AGE, with Skip Press. Agent X11 is proud to present America's Golden Eon, AGE, with Skip Press.
American, I am an American. From sea to shining sea, America is the land of the free. From our early history, American Golden Eon, AGE. If we deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, we will cause him to withdraw, and our nation will be forsaken. Love that neighbor as thyself, for justice be ever thirsty. Walk in ever present love, and always showing mercy. American. America, American, I am an American. America, American, I am an American. America is the land of the free. From our early history, American golden eon age. America, American, I am an American. America, American, I am an American.
Agent X11's America's Golden Eon, AGE, with Skip Press begins now. And we are back with Skip Press. Let me pull this out 1 second. I actually went on my second laptop and was able to turn on the backdrop. I can't do
Okay,
it
we're
on
Americans now.
from my first one. So, Skip, it's all yours.
Okay, so Donald John Trump. He is born in 1946. He's got a father who's rich. He's got a mother who's Scottish. And he had some extremely, what's the word for it? Predictive influences that have carried him forward to this day. His father, Fred Trump, and mother, Mary Trump, they took their kids to the Marble Collegiate Church in Manhattan, and that was the church of Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. And he had a slogan, Norman Vincent Peale had a slogan: trust God, have faith, and stick it out.
Yeah.
And by golly, that certainly applies to Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
No. He after when Trump ran in 2016, and when he became president, the Marble Collegiate Church, which had long since seen Norman Vincent Peale say bye-bye, disowned him. They didn't want anything to do with the philosophy that they were basically founded on, right? So
Nice.
Yes.
one of the things that Trump espoused when he ran in 2016, and this had a lot to do with the crowds that he drew, and it's certainly pertinent today. He said Christianity is under siege, and he was correct. Yeah, and when the voting took place, white evangelicals were 81 to 16% for Trump, and mainland Protestants were 58 to 39. So he really got the evangelicals, and he proved how powerful they can be, despite how some people try to knock them, But Norman Vincent Peale, he preached to Donald Trump, and he counseled Donald Trump, and other people that were big fans of Norman Vincent Peale was one of my very favorite presidents, maybe second under Donald Trump, which was Dwight Eisenhower. And so was Edgar Vincent. So was J. Edgar Hoover, but whatever. Everybody's got some good things and some bad. Now, but the other thing was the Trump family Bible was a big deal in the Trump family. Mary came over from Scotland and met Fred, got married, had kids, but there were these two old ladies in Scotland, where she came from, that kind of blessed her with this Bible that became very dear to the whole family, and certainly to President Trump, when he got inaugurated. It was his hand on that Bible, and there's a whole story about it. You can look up a wonderful video on YouTube that explains the whole thing, and it's now housed in, now that he's been inaugurated twice. It's in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. So that's quite a story. So there was basically major underpinnings of Christianity, despite the knocks on Donald Trump, the women thing, the grab them by the thing, DC, all that. He had really strong Christian underpinnings that have carried him forward all his life. He went to school in New York, and then he went to he ended up in Wharton with his business school. He wasn't that great of a student, but 1964 he was in the New York Military Academy. So the military has always been important to Trump, and he's the last of 4 children. Which a lot of people,
I didn't know he was a baby.
Yeah, tend to not know his. I think his older sister Marianne's still alive. I'm not sure about that. Fred Jr. Died of alcoholism and told Donald to not do it. And so as a result, you've got a president who's got a strong Christian background, but also is a teetotaler. And has been, apparently no drugs, nothing. There's the video that I saw one time when Barron was very young, and he's in Donald's office, and he's going out to school for the first time. Says, "Okay, never get into drugs, never did. Swear to me you won't do this, right?" And then he's got a younger brother named Robert, and he was a privileged kid. Fred gave each of his kids $20,000 a year at the time. So that's like, 10 times that. But by the time that Donald Trump was 8 years old, he was a millionaire. So a lot of people don't know that. So, when they knock him on privilege, okay, let them knock him on privilege. John Kerry is super rich. The Kennedys are all super rich. This is not unusual for presidents, frankly. So he went to a school through the 7th grade, and he sort of had a little bit of an attitude, and he got into trouble. And so so Fred sticks him in this New York Military Academy, which is a boarding school, and that's where he they pushed people into sports and taught them to be winners. And he was a B student. He wasn't, super great. And he was enough of a entertainer that he thought about he'd go into showbiz, but he didn't. He went to Fordham University, still in New York. And he joins, he'd been in this military school. He joins ROTC, Reserve Officers Training Corps, as soon as he's a freshman. So he's going to classes in a.
He was a ROTC, not a Nazi.
Yeah.
ROTC, not a Nazi.
I haven't not heard it pronounced that way. I was like, is that ROTC?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so his first year of school at Fordham, he's going to classes in a military uniform, right? So
wow.
this might explain something about him in the military. But then he dropped ROTC when he was a sophomore. And but he's playing sports. He wasn't very good at tennis. He was okay at football. And so some of his fellow students said, you ought to try golf. And so, boy, that took off with him. And to this day, it really did a thing with him, which is kind of one of the reasons that I have always liked Donald Trump because in my senior year of high school, my tiny town in Texas, we put together a golf team, which nobody had ever heard of doing, and we won the state championship.
Nice.
And then the little town and some of the rich farmers who had knocked our efforts built a country club, which is still there, right? So junior year of Fordham, that's when Trump transferred to Wharton, and he would go hang out with his father in the office on weekends, and so he was learning the family business early on. There's some of the lies that had been taught to him, about him, was that, oh, his dad gave him $1 million, so anybody could succeed if they did that.
Right.
Well, he was a millionaire by the time he was 8. He grew up as he could have been a spoiled rich kid. He didn't do that, and he was just kind of a okay student, and he changes, I guess, from hanging out with Fred, and Fred was building real estate developments on, I think, Long Island or Staten Island or something like that. Did very well, but he's building houses for the normal people, so not for rich people. So Donald kind of says, I'm gonna get into real estate. Now, another thing that the media has tried to tag him with was that he was a draft dodger. Now he wasn't a draft dodger. He had bone spurs in his heels, and but he spent 5 years in military school, but he wasn't interested in going to Vietnam. Well, a hell of a lot of people weren't interested in going to Vietnam, So, can you blame him? It was ridiculous. Now, as he got into real estate, he at Trump Management, which was Fred's company, he was working with the normal people who bought these, who got into these apartment complexes that Fred built. Fred was building in Queens. He's building in Staten Island. He's building in Brooklyn. And so what did Donald have to do? What was his job? He would collect rent, and he'd make sure that repairs got made. And, he did that for about 5 years. And then he kind of, he's a rich kid, so he kind of goes looking about the glamour life, and he gets his dad to expand his company, his influences to Manhattan. And Fred was just content to be working with the middle class people. But so Donald moved the business, at least his side of it, to Manhattan, and that's where it took off. And by early 1971, his father makes him the president of Trump Management, and they
So
had
he's been a president for a while.
yeah, and they had under it, they had 48 private corporations and 15 family partnerships. So he was becoming a magnate. Now the one deal that kind of he gets knocks on, which is a little interesting, was Roy Cohn, who would fix things for him. He was his lawyer. He's kind of a mentor. But the one thing that Roy Cohn taught Donald was how to deal with the tough guys. Cohn had mafia connections. He was a consigliere, meaning he was a lawyer.
I did not know that he was a consigliere.
Yeah, to the mafia, right?
Wow.
And really knew everything about the unions, right? So as a result, Donald Trump learned a hell of a lot about the unions and dealing with the unions in New York City, which you had to do to be successful in real estate. That's just the way it was. which is one of the reasons when he was running in 2016 and all my goofy friends were like, Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz. I was like, Donald Trump is the only one that can win because he's tough. He's a New Yorker. He knows the Clintons inside and out, which is really good to know the enemy like that. And you know, I was right. And shortly after that all started, you know, Ann Coulter comes out and says, Donald Trump, he's the only one that can win. Of course, she was right about that, right?
Yeah, and they all laughed at her.
Yeah. Now, Donald Trump is always litigious. Well, he learned that from Roy Cohn, right? He's like, you know, he would use that as a weapon, and he has been involved in over 4,000 lawsuits in his career, you know, and pushing 5,000 probably since the political time, right? The biggest drawback he had was when he expanded to New Jersey. To Atlantic City, New Jersey, with the Trump hotels and casinos, and that kind of went belly up. And so he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for 6 of his businesses, and those businesses include the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, his casinos in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and the Trump Hotels and Casinos Resorts Company. And that's where you got the quote you might have seen about him. He says, you know, maybe someday I'd like to be broke just to see who my friends are, right? And there was a point where Donald Trump was $1 billion in debt, which is a hell of a lot of debt, you know, and he came back and built himself up from that, right? And all along, all this time, he was a Democrat. And so to get an idea of what people thought about him in New York, in the media, when he was a Democrat, let's play that video where Oprah Winfrey in 1988 asked him if he wants to be president.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Albert. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me. I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
Yeah, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. You know, they all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around all three of those candidates can be very proud of the jobs they've done.
You said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone into losing in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
So you got,
Oprah.
yeah,
The
you
no
got,
kings thing, like the no kings thing was strange there, right?
yeah, yeah, right. So 37 years ago, he was talking like he's still talking today, right? So
Yes.
Same
Donald
story.
Trump, yeah. But the funny thing is, a year before that, he wasn't talking like that. So something happened to change his mind. So play the little video where he's talking to Larry King.
Again, and it's a very important point, Japan is a money machine. Saudi Arabia is a money machine. Kuwait, these are money machines, the greatest ever created. The United States is, if it were a corporation, it would be bankrupt. It's losing $200 billion a year. For years now it's been losing that. What right do we have to go out and defend? Why aren't these countries, these wealthy money machines, paying us for the defense of their freedom and their nations? Why aren't they paying us?
We are kind of the world's keeper, are we not?
I don't believe we should be. I think Japan should certainly make a contribution. Japan is one of the reasons they're so successful is they don't have to worry about defense, because why should they worry about defense when the United States will do it for nothing? I mean, it's crazy. Saudi Arabia, I mean, you saw what happened with Saudi Arabia. We're going through the Gulf. We have old-fashioned, obsolete minesweepers. We ask Saudi Arabia for the use of their minesweepers, which are the best made, the most modern, the best, and they say no. Who are they to tell us no? We're not going to give you our minesweepers. It's ridiculous. They're only there for the sake of us as far as that's concerned. We are protective of Saudi Arabia. They should pay for that.
Are we going to be hearing more from Mr. Trump on issues like this as we go along?
I really don't know, Larry. This is an issue that's been bothering me. It's been bothering a lot of people that I know, and I think it's an issue that had to be brought out to the fore. The concept of America financing and paying and losing lives for countries that won't even allow us to use their ships. And these are the countries that in 24 hours they'd be wiped off the face of the earth if it weren't for America. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying, no, I'm not going to run for president. Then a year later with Oprah, he's saying, well, you know, if it ever came to it, blah, 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 right? So, but given his background, giving how confluences of influences came together, I think it was inevitable that Donald Trump become president. And it, you know, in his Christian background, and I think most people who are paying attention are familiar with the Kim Clement prediction, where he's saying, God told me, he's in Ventura, California, where he had his church. You know, God told me a trumpet, but they say he has hot blood, but I don't care. I'm going to use him, says God, and predicts that he's going to be president. And everybody was like, what is this crazy preacher saying this stuff? But, you know, there was another guy who very much not a Christian, but very popular in the media, who apparently has a time machine. And he's a friend of mine. His name is Matt Groening. And he created this guy named Homer Simpson. And Homer Simpson had a dream or something. And this was on The Simpsons. So let's play that one. And this Donald Trump was meant to be because The Simpsons said so.
I know the Simpsons have been, you know, he must have a time machine because he's predicted 1,000 things.
Hey!
Hold an escalator.
I'm right behind him. Not supposed to stare at it directly, but I can't help it. If I touch it, will it heal my baldness? Oh, it's so wispy. It's a gravity-defying comb-over. I
2016,
can't believe that this was once
2028.
on his
That's right.
ass. It's as blonde as a golden marmoset, yet also gray as a long dead
Maybe he's
donkey.
getting lost.
I'm so jealous of all those booby women he's married. If he paid less than $1 million for it, it's a steal.
I am officially running.
No! No! Don't take me out of the ginger forest!
President of the United States.
Yeah! At least I'll always have this. Oh.
Oh, that is so cool.
So they're like a Trump Tower in Springfield, you know, or something like that. So anyway, so it was now how the hell did the Simpsons get Donald Trump coming down the golden escalator?
Did you ask Matt?
No, I didn't. I don't know Matt. I just know Diane Case, his good friend. I'd love to meet Matt and ask him about it. He probably wouldn't say a word.
Yeah, he's not going to tell you. He says, I'm Illuminati.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But all these things he predicts, I don't know. He's got some great writers, but
right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna run down. People, Trump. You never know what he's going to tweet. You never know what's going to happen. He keeps everybody on edge. With me, it's a good edge. I'm like, yeah, knock.
I like it too.
But so I usually go over things that the presidents have accomplished. We had a real hard time coming up with something last time because it was Obama. He didn't accomplish much of anything except horrible. So here's some things. Here's a whole list of Donald Trump accomplishments, right? And this is from the first presidency. An unprecedented economic boom, right? America in his first term gained 7 million new jobs, which was more than 3 times government experts' predictions. Middle class family income increased $6,000, more than 5 times the gains of the entire previous administration, which was Barack Obama, 8 years. Unemployment rate reached 3.5%, lowest in half a century. 40 months in a row with more job openings and job hirings. More Americans are reported being employed than ever before, nearly 160 million. Jobless claims hit a 50-year low, right? He brought jobs, factories, and industries back to the USA, still doing it. Record stock market numbers, record number of 401ks, rebuilding and investing in rural America, a record-setting economic comeback by rejecting blanket lockdowns. 56 in 2020 Gallup survey, 56% of Americans said they were better off during a pandemic than 4 years before. And during the third quarter of 2020, the economy grew at a rate of 33.1%, the most rapid gross domestic product growth ever recorded. Unemployment fell to 6.7% in December 2020. 80% of small businesses were open, up from 53% in April of that year. Small business confidence hit a new high. U.S. rejected crippling lockdowns. Household net worth rose 7.4 trillion in quarter 2 of 2020 to 112 trillion, an all-time high. So it's 5 trillion in household net worth in the second quarter of 2020. And so we're going to believe that Joe Biden beat him in an election. Yeah, sure. And he brought tax relief to the middle class. He passed, under Donald Trump, passed 3.2 million in tax relief and reformed the tax code. um, opportunity zones, massive deregulation. This is one that I'm all for. He eliminated under Donald Trump, eliminated 8 old regulations for every new regulation adopted. Now, I was for this a long time before Donald Trump. It's like you've got all these stupid laws that just stay on the books, and some of them just don't apply anymore, but people could still get charged for them. So Donald Trump realized this and started wiping out the old bad ones, right?
Good.
You know, and he did the same thing in taking away the bloat of federal government, removed 25,000 pages from the Federal Register, right? Which, in other words, stop all this stuff. Let's just get on with the business for the people, right? Boy, it just goes on and on. Regulatory outreach, he rolled all that back, and made he was talking about Japan, all these other places. He started taking care of fair and reciprocal trade, and got rid of the NAFTA, which was maybe the best thing he did right away, and put in place the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, which really made things fair for us. And he negotiated with Japan on tariffs and stuff. And he also brought historic support to the American farmer. And this went on and on and on how we were getting screwed, right? In the American farmers. And being a former chapter president of the Future Farmers America in my hometown, this was very important to me. And of course, he ticked off all the global warmers, climate change cuckoos, and opened up energy, oil and gas, and all that sort of stuff. And American workers, God, it's just such a long list. In the previous discussions about presidents, I'll find something, it'll be 10 or 15 major accomplishments.
Yeah.
And with Donald Trump, it just goes on and on and on.
So the show about Biden's going to be really short then, right?
Yeah. Well, it'll be the reverse of this, and then let's not forget, he replenished our oil and gas reserves and filled that back up, bought all the gas, all the petroleum cheap and everything. And so Biden gets in, and Biden lowers the gas prices by depleting it. So now Donald Trump had to build it back up again, right? And he under him, the FDA and other government regulatory agencies overseeing of health, the health of the United States and the citizens were greatly improved. And we all know what he did to fight this coronavirus engineered crap, and he had these guys working against him. And so when people say, well, he's for vaccines, and that was a horrible vaccine. Oh, no, it's terrible. But his Operation Warp Speed actually cut short the devastation that would have happened if he'd not done it, which could be a whole show in itself. And then he tried to take care of people in nursing homes, in contrast to Cuomo, who was governor of New York. And remember, Donald Trump put the Mercy ship in New York Harbor when they didn't have adequate facilities for nursing home people fighting COVID and all that sort of thing. And
Yes.
Cuomo never used them. So
Oh my God.
remember that? It was
Yes.
ridiculous. It was absolutely
I think
ridiculous.
the Mercy Dock in San Diego, because I used to work in downtown San Diego for a international law firm, which one of the individuals I worked with, John McNeese, worked on NAFTA. So there's that.
Right. Right. And and then last but not least, which is going to expire next month, which is the ACA, which is the Obamacare. And he eliminated the Obamacare individual mandate because what the Democrats were moving toward is single payer, which Obamacare made the insurance companies rich, right? It had nothing to do with people. And Obama is, you may know, has been getting a royalty ever since, millions of dollars every year because of the use of his name on Obamacare.
Good
And that,
God.
yeah, and that just got nailed. And so he's not going to get that money anymore, right? Lowered drug prices. When Donald Trump lowered drug prices in his first term, that was the first time that had happened in 51 years, right? And so now people lately in this term, he makes this deal to lower the price of Ozempic. And the critics are going, well, Bobby Kennedy brought out that Ozempic kills people, blah, 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 and he has the drug guys in the Oval Office, and the CEO over Ozempic falls down and passes out, right?
I know. I mean, seriously, if you've ever had a meme for this is a clown world, that was it.
Yeah, yeah. And but what literally happened was Ozempic's very dangerous as it is. It's been very expensive. So Trump gets it lowered down to almost nothing compared to what it was, which means the stupid drug company can't make any money off this anymore.
Right. And hopefully the elderly who can now afford it at $50 will not take it because it can result in pancreatic cancer. And when you see the people that have lost weight on it, they literally look like you can tell who has been on it and who hasn't. They look like walking corpses.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. So and then let's not forget, love him or hate him, he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, which made the conservatives supposedly a majority of 6-3. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and then he just about secured the southern border and got that turned around. And then, of course, the idiots engineered the election and stopped that. And he also cracked down on asylum fraud, started work on the immigration system. He made American leadership abroad and peace through strength popular again. And he stood up against communism and socialism, and God knows what's going to happen with him and Mandami. I think they're meeting today in the Oval Office.
Yes, it's 3:00 Eastern for the slug down.
Yeah, yeah. And so he worked on fixing things for our veterans, building up the military, which he did very successfully. Look, it just goes on and on. Everything that Donald Trump did in his first term, it's miraculous. The list is endless if you care to search it out. But all the little controversies and things that they brought up to try to subverting the Steele dossier and stuff like that, which we'll get into a little bit, distracts people from what Donald Trump really did. Because most Americans, they just think about their pocketbook. Well, how's my money? How I'm doing. That sort of thing. And Bill Clinton, after Newt Gingrich and the Republicans took over, made people happy and got elected a second term because he took care of their money. People's money was taken care of, you know. So Donald Trump did all that too, right? Now, how did Donald? How was, you know, we've got Oprah, got Larry King. You know, Donald Trump was kind of in the news more, you know, not more than for people in New York. You know, he was kind of the king in New York a little bit, but his persona that got presented to the American people, part of it came from The Apprentice, which ran for 14 years on NBC. But here's a little NBC clip about how Donald Trump created Donald Trump, which you can play that one.
Before he was a presidential candidate.
And I've been saying for years, keep the oil, don't let them have the oil.
Before he was a reality TV star.
You're fired.
Donald Trump was a New York tabloid fixture. All through the 1980s, Trump was busy building something new, and it wasn't a skyscraper.
Billionaire developer Donald Trump has put his name on a New York City hotel, shopping center, and apartment buildings, as well as a casino in Atlantic City. And now he's going to put his name on a big piece of Eastern Airlines.
Trump was creating a public persona, one that could be both funny and demeaning, arrogant and somehow in touch with the common man.
I sort of love and hate him at the same time. I mean, I think he has, you know, a monumental ego.
He comes off as being very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Arrogant?
Yeah, he's arrogant.
I like him.
You do?
Man's got it made, got everything.
He often did this by picking fights.
He said, I think Donald Trump is an artful liar. I think he is a greedy, vicious, and arrogant man.
Well, I don't know, is that supposed to be a compliment or not? I'm not sure.
He waged a years-long battle with New York City Mayor Ed Koch.
I hope that New York City has a different mayor at some point, because I think Ed Koch is a total disaster. He's been a very bad mayor for the city.
He helped launch a competitor to the NFL called the U.S. Football League, and then launched a lawsuit against the NFL when the USFL failed.
The jury in the case delivered its verdict. It ruled the NFL did indeed monopolize pro football, but it awarded damages of just $1.
And in one of his biggest fights of the 1980s, he went up against media mogul Merv Griffin in a fight over a casino in Atlantic City.
People realize now that Merv made a bad deal. It's unfortunate that he's taken a fall, but he has taken the fall. Nothing much I can do about it.
Donald loves that perception. I won. He is still, you know, a year later standing in New York going, I won. He wants to make sure everybody in America knows he won.
But the Donald Trump we know today is more than just a boastful brawler. That's because there's one more tactic that Trump apparently learned in the 80s and uses to great effect on the campaign trail today. Keep people guessing about any long-term plans.
Mr. Trump, what's left in your life? You're 33 years old. You're worth all this money. You say you didn't say that you want to be worth $1 billion.
No, I really don't. I just want to keep busy and keep active.
Could $1 billion buy the White House? What do you think?
Well,
Does
I don't
money
think it can.
give?
I know a lot of the politicians. I like a lot of the politicians. They're friends of mine.
Trump carefully cultivated speculation about his future. In 1987, he ran a full-page ad in major newspapers that read like a political manifesto.
A blow-up of the ad is now on display at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue.
The ad was irresistible to the New York press, and the move kept Trump's name in the news.
Trump has said, quite seriously, that he's a good enough bargainer to negotiate a nuclear disarmament treaty with the Russians.
This is not a wealthy country. People think America, you know, wealth, this and that. The Japanese are saying that. What a wealthy country. I mean, they're saying it and they're laughing. Country's losing $200 billion a year. We ought to go in, the next time they fire so much as a bullet at one of our ships, we ought to go in and take over their oil.
With each of these instances, Trump refined his playbook. His attacks.
Steve, you're going to have to start pushing these people now a little bit, because it's getting a little ridiculous as far as I'm concerned.
His boasts.
We'll probably sell an extra 10,000 season tickets, and that's a lot of tickets.
And his shifting positions.
Do you have the genes to be a successful politician?
Well, you never really know. I think I'm pretty outspoken, and that's not probably a good thing in terms of a politician, but it's a good thing if you ever got elected, you can really do a job.
Now, even back in the 80s, many found Trump's over-the-top personality distasteful.
What may be most discouraging of all is that Palm Beach will accept almost anything if it's got enough money, but somehow it will not accept Donald Trump.
But by playing the role of an unpredictable bully with the Midas touch, Trump showed he couldn't easily be ignored.
I believe that perhaps I'm portrayed differently than I actually am. I believe I'm portrayed in a rougher sense than the actual product. And I hope that's true, because I hope the actual product is a lot more mellow than the portrayal.
And that may be his biggest asset of all. When people attack Trump, they reinforce the version of Trump that Trump wants people to see. And inevitably, that keeps Trump's name in the news.
That doesn't matter because I'm not running for office.
Hey, NBC News fans.
Skip, we can't hear you. Your mic's off.
Oh yeah, sorry. I had it was New York City outside when the garbage truck came by.
Right.
Anyway, the art of the deal. This is how good this guy was at the art of the deal, and that is Mar-a-Lago, right? He's if you don't know the story of Mar-a-Lago, it's unbelievable.
I know, it's a great story.
Yeah. Marjorie Merriweather Post, I think it was his name. You know, the Post, the publishing company and everything. She had Mar-a-Lago, and she didn't try to sell it when she didn't give it to relatives or whatever. She willed it to the U.S. Department of the Interior because it was such a almost like palatial place and everything. But the Department of Interior had to pay $1 million a year in maintenance and in taxes, right? So they gave in 1981, they gave it back to the Post Foundation. They're like, hey, wait a minute, we don't want it. So then it was put up for sale, and a bunch of people were trying to buy it, including the Marriott hotels, which is the Pritzker idiot families, and some different real estate people, and none of those deals happened. But Donald Trump tried to buy it, and he gave him an initial offer of $28 million, but the Post Foundation turned it down. Who knows why? So Trump does something very clever. He puts in a contract. He's going to buy all the waterfront land across the street from Mar-a-Lago, and he was going to build some big something that would block the views of the ocean from Mar-a-Lago. Right. And he told the Washington Post, he said that drove everybody nuts. Well, it sure did, because nobody wanted to buy the place if Trump owned everything on the beach and you couldn't see the ocean from Mar-a-Lago. It was just plummeted, in interest. Right. So then they kept lowering the price and nobody was going to buy it. So finally, this place has 118 rooms, right? It's just huge. And so Trump manages to buy Mar-a-Lago, never builds a thing across the street, buys Mar-a-Lago for $5 million.
Oh, wow.
Right? With the price of a 3-bedroom house in Beverly Hills right now, right? He pays $3 million for its furniture, right? And the beachfront property that Mar-a-Lago owned, he pays $2 million for that, right? So 5, 3, 8, he pays $10 million for the whole thing, right?
Dang.
And despite, he had 3 Atlantic City casinos and the Trump Plaza Hotel and all. In the early 1990s, these things went through bankruptcies, and getting down to no money and everything, but he hangs on to Mar-a-Lago, and in 1995 he transforms it into a private club, and despite the idiot court ruling in New York that said it was worth $13 million when they were trying to put him in jail, that's baloney. It's at least worth $500 million. Trump says it's worth $1 billion. So it probably is, and it's still a private club. So even though that's the Southern White House, you can actually, I don't know how much it costs, but you can actually, be a member of Mar-a-Lago. So, that's how much of a great negotiator he is, right? So then we get to the we got the little quiet or garbage truck coming by right now. I hope it doesn't. We get to 2016, and by 2016 he has made himself securely very famous with lots of celebrities. 14-year run on NBC of The Apprentice. How many shows last 14 years, right? So it was like, you're fired. Well, one person that he wanted to fire, but thankfully a term ran out, was Barack Obama. And Bill and Hillary Clinton had been friends of Donald Trump. They went to his wedding, but he knew them inside and out. So he sure as hell didn't want Hillary Clinton to be president, right? So he switches to the GOP, and then June 16th, 2015, he announces that he's going to run for president, and he smartly co-ops Ronald Reagan's "Make America Great Again." What Reagan's thing was "Let's Make America Great Again." So Donald Trump, and thus MAGA was born, and he comes up with these red baseball caps, which took off like crazy, and he ran on immigration. And said, I'm going to build a wall. And people thought, that's crazy. You can't build a wall all across the U.S.-Mexican border. He wanted to renegotiate the trade deals like NAFTA. He said that was terrible. And he said that, Ross Perot was right about the great sucking sound that would take away American jobs, And he was going to bring jobs back to the U.S., and he didn't like the Iraq War. He was going to get rid of that. And the Tea Party had already happened. And he kind of tapped into the Tea Party a little bit, right? And I think there were 17 people, something like that, Republicans running, and people thought Jeb Bush is a lock. And then there were Ted Cruz and then John Kasich, of all people. People thought he could win.
Ben Carson run in 2016?
Yeah, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio ran, and Donald Trump was come up with these nicknames and just rip people apart on stage. And some of my friends thought, God, he's mean. He can't, he talked about Ben Carson, who's a very genial guy who had a real problem with his family and banging his brother.
Yes, he wrote a book and he talked about wanting to kill his mother with a hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a problem. A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't get him anywhere near the Pelosi family. Hammer time.
Yeah. And he called Marco Rubio, who's actually a quite smart and genial guy. He called him Little Marco. and Ted Cruz got ripped. And then Sleepy Jeb, remember that Jeb? Sleepy Jeb Bush,
Sleepy Jeb. Jeb resigned early on.
Yeah, and so he just knocked these people down like whack-a-mole, right? And then he won in New Hampshire, which shocked everybody. And then he won in South Carolina, and then he won in Michigan. These are primaries, and in Pennsylvania. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, he can take the Rust Belt. He did not win in Wisconsin. He did not win in Iowa, but when he won in Indiana, that was the end of Ted Cruz, right? And so he gets the nomination, and he picks, like I just said, he won in Indiana, and he ends up with a vice president who was a well-respected governor of Indiana at the time, which was Pence, right? So, and he was a populist. He was a populist like Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt's great speech about the man in the arena. Donald Trump was the man in the arena, but here's the one big thing that he did that no president had ever done before, and that was he used social media, and it really
did.
Particularly Twitter. And we got a little video on that about how effective it was.
Is that the 2016 election?
Yeah, uses social media to
Now
power
he's running for U.S. president indeed, but may already be the king of Twitter. Donald Trump's quest for the Republican presidential nomination is being feared in part by his reliance and dominating presence on social media. His tweets make news nearly every day. Hendrik Sabrandi looks at the Trump Twitter phenomenon.
Donald Trump is a master of the declarative sentence.
I am going to be
He is clear.
the greatest jobs president
He is concise.
that God ever created.
He speaks in sound bites. He is a media mastermind.
He is a soundbite candidate.
Wow, Senator Cruz, that is some low-level ad you did using a picture of Melania in a GQ shoot. Be careful or I will spill the beans on your wife. Trump is using social media like no politician has before.
He doesn't have a filter, and that works really well on Twitter.
Says Samuel Jay of Metropolitan State University of Denver.
I mean, that spreads.
Fellow social media expert Matthew Kaskevich says Donald Trump's tweets stand out because they trigger high arousal emotions.
The content that he posts traditionally goes around two things, shock and surprise and fear.
This veteran of reality television knows how to grab the traditional media's attention.
Even if the headline
says Darrigan Silver of the University of Denver.
All he has to do is he has to tweet something really outrageous the night before. Boom. He's now not only in front of the public, but he's sucking up airtime that could be used to cover other candidates or other topics or other policies.
The approach has worked, at least in terms of numbers. Trump's over 31,000 tweets, one more provocative than the other, have garnered well over 7 million Twitter followers.
Saying something stupid does not hurt Trump.
Certainly not with his followers, who by retweeting his messages, experts say, help solidify his support.
Trump's Twitter base is just so massive that it's not just what he says, but once it's out there, they do the work for him.
Trump's tweets are now a part of pop culture, getting big laughs when singer Josh Groban put them to music on late-night television.
Never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke.
In a year when U.S. voters crave authenticity in their candidates, Donald Trump is providing it, 140 characters at a time. I would like to extend my best wishes to all, even the haters and losers, on this special date, September 11th. It may not win him the White House, but campaigns may never be the same.
Those people that love him for the tweets, and that's part of the reason they love him.
Hendrik Sabrandi, CCTV, Denver.
And then let's do the next one, which is him taking apart his candidates, his competitors in a GOP.
The Donald Trump show tonight, for better or for worse. At the first Republican debate held in Cleveland, it was at times easy to forget that there were 9 other candidates on the stage. We've got our analysts standing by, but let's begin here tonight with the highlights.
The polls. In the center of the stage tonight, businessman Donald Trump.
Right from the jump tonight, Donald Trump made waves.
Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Mr. Trump.
I cannot say I can totally make that pledge. If I'm the nominee, I will pledge I will not run as an independent.
So tonight you can't say if another one of these.
This is what's wrong. I mean,
Okay.
This is what's wrong. He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's used to buying politicians.
Well, I've given him plenty of money.
You're not going to make the pledge tonight.
I will not make the pledge at this time.
Okay.
A few other candidates said a few other things, and then 21 minutes in, it was back to Trump for another doozy.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct.
Moments later, Rosie herself weighed in on Twitter, quote, "Try explaining that to your kids." The testiest moment of the night didn't involve Trump, but instead New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. It was over the NSA's bulk data collection, which Christie supports and Paul does not.
I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from innocent Americans.
When you're sitting in a subcommittee just blowing hot air about this, you can say things like that.
You fundamentally misunderstand the Bill of Rights. I don't trust President Obama with our records. I know you gave him a big hug, and if you want to give him a big hug again, go right ahead.
Go ahead, Governor.
And you know, Senator Paul, the hugs that I remember are the hugs that I gave to the families who lost their people on September 11th.
To be sure, there was plenty of Hillary Clinton bashing tonight.
If Hillary is the candidate, which I doubt, that would be a dream come true.
If I'm our nominee, how is Hillary Clinton going to lecture me about living paycheck to paycheck?
Everywhere in the world that Hillary Clinton touched is more messed up today than before she and the
We have many questions to come.
Here in the same arena in Cleveland, where the Republican Party will hold its national convention next year. But perhaps the most bizarre riff on Hillary came from the Donald, who talked about why he contributed to her in the past.
With Hillary Clinton, I said, be at my wedding, and she came to my wedding. You know why? She had no choice.
It was a bit of a tough night at times for Jeb Bush. The former governor of Florida seemed to struggle on issues such as immigration, education, and once again, the Iraq War. But he did stay above the fray when offered a chance to attack Trump.
You called Mr. Trump a clown, a buffoon, something else that cannot be repeated on television.
None of which is true.
Is it true?
No, it's not true. But I have said that Mr. Trump's language is divisive. I want to win. I want one of these people here, or the ones at 5 o'clock, to be the next president of the United States.
Well, first of all, Jeb, I am very happy that you denied that, and I appreciate that very much.
So how did the debate go over with Republican voters? We got some rapid response tonight.
If you won't say it, I will.
From Tony Lahren, a young political commentator who's become a viral sensation on YouTube in recent weeks. Tonight she weighed in on all things Trump.
We know Donald Trump tells it like it is. He's not afraid of it. What I saw, though, is Donald Trump be fearless. I didn't see him back himself into a corner. I saw him challenge Megyn Kelly. I saw him challenge other Republicans on the stage. And then I saw Megyn Kelly challenge him right back. I like the conversation there.
And ABC's Tom Yamas was right there in Cleveland tonight for all the drama. Tom, what are you seeing there?
Dan, good evening from the post-debate spin room where candidates are answering even more questions. The big buzz, obviously, that Donald Trump is not afraid to run without the Republican Party, refusing to take a pledge that he will not run as an independent. The other big buzz, some candidates actually breaking through. Besides Donald Trump, Dr. Ben Carson, the second most talked about candidate on social media. And speaking of social media, Hillary Clinton had something to say. Jon Stewart, missing you already. Hashtag GOP debate. Dan, back to you.
Tom Yamas on the ground in Cleveland tonight. Thank you. We want to turn now to our colleague Matt Dowd, ABC News political analyst, and also BuzzFeed's Washington, D.C. bureau chief John Stanton. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Let me start with you. Did Donald Trump help or hurt himself tonight?
I think Donald Trump had momentum coming into tonight, but I think over the course of the 2 hours, I think it wore sort of thin over this. And I think any momentum, in my view, that he had coming in is stopped by tonight. I think he made a few errors in the course of tonight, some of the engagement that he had with some of the moderators. But I think what he did, he'll still be ahead coming out, but I think any momentum is now stalled because of his shtick. Kind of got a little old over 2 hours.
So, John, you work at BuzzFeed. I've got to ask you, do you have a sense of what is popping tonight, what's going viral, if anything?
I think there are a couple of things. I think one, the eye roll from Rand Paul was kind of amazing in his fight with Governor Christie. I think the Donald Trump sort of the shruggy emoticon moment there was pretty good, because they both sort of sum up, I think, their debate performances, frankly. But I think coming out of today, Carly Fiorina, who did very, very well in the afternoon debate, and the Ohio Governor Kasich, he did very, very well tonight. And I think they're going to have momentum, and that could change the dynamic a little bit for Trump.
Why are people so excited about Carly?
Carly Fiorina will be in the next debate.
I
think
right
she has enough
there.
momentum from her earlier debate.
You know, they were
Wrong,
just
wrong.
they were so wrong. Matthew Dowd to this day is the worst. I don't know how this guy stays employed. Right? It's just it's ridiculous. But let's go to the next little video, because this is the one where he
I love this one.
Needs to calm down here. I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking, because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
And so wasting time? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and so there's so much stuff about I mean, we almost need 2 shows to just cover this whole thing. But so he picks Mike Pence. One of the reasons is because he had a longtime friend named Steve Hilbert, who was pushing for Pence behind the scenes, and said, you're in New York, you need the Midwest and all that sort of stuff. And so he basically got talked into picking Mike Pence. Now how did that turn out? Well, it could have turned out better, but so
just thinking, it ends up with them saying, "Hang Mike Pence."
Yeah, exactly. And so there's all kinds of other things that we can talk about. We've got other videos. He's the guy who invented fake news. Had you ever heard that term before? No.
Nope.
And was he right? Always.
Yes.
He's still right. And then he goes on the first tour abroad, which was very interesting. The first place he went was Saudi Arabia. Now consider what happened this week. He has the crown prince there. Well, why is the crown prince the head of Saudi Arabia? Because supposedly the Las Vegas hotel shooting, in the crowd and everything, the prince was on the floor, on the top floor of that hotel, and supposedly there was a plot to kill him, and Donald Trump told him about it. And as a result, he wasn't assassinated, and then he goes and finds all the people plotting against him, and eviscerates a large part of the Saudi intelligence and other people, and changed everything in Saudi Arabia. So he goes to Saudi Arabia. Now he goes to he has a sword dance, which according to their lore, supposedly if you do the sword dance and you're leading the sword dance with all the people waving swords and everything, they are saying you are the king, to the Saudi people. And then he lands in Israel, and he became the first person, the first U.S. president to visit the Western Wall, Solomon's Temple, and no American president had ever done that. And so he goes to Saudi Arabia. Wow, that's different. Then he's at the Western Wall. Wow, that's different. And then he goes to the Vatican, and there's that picture of him with the Pope after their meeting, and the Pope is looking pretty downtrodden. And like, what was that all about, right? Then he gets together with all the G7 people in Brussels, and people are already demonstrating against him, big giant puppets of making him look like a villain, and then he meets with NATO, and he starts, he sort of lays down a law with NATO, says, you guys haven't been paying your regular dues, your promises and everything, so you're going to have to start doing that. So this was like, oh my God. Then he has the G7 summit, and he basically, if you've been following everything I've been following, there's a thing that we can get into maybe when we talk about his second term, that Trump had, if you remember, he said he had 200 generals behind him or something like that, several hundred generals, right? Okay. Donald Trump, 5 years in military school, all his background, wore a military uniform to his first as a reserve officer training corps in college, his freshman year in college, right? So Donald Trump was very much into the military, and he built up the military. Well, then he goes to North Korea and steps across the line with Kim Jong-il, right? And now what most people don't know about Kim is that Kim speaks fluent English and is a big fan of Western culture and went to school in Switzerland, right? So didn't need an interpreter with Kim. And so Trump meets with all these people. He's tight with Abe in Japan, who gets assassinated, and he makes this world tour that was in direct contrast to Barack Obama's apology tour, around the world apology tour. Now, if you believe certain sources, Donald Trump figured out with all these generals who had been formed as a bloc after the Kennedy assassination to right America. And he basically went to these different people and says, we're on to you. We've got the goods on you. The NSA has tracked everything. And so you're going to have to give up the books, right? Now, Jan Halper Hayes, Penny, we've discussed her before. Jan Halper Hayes.
She went to school with my husband.
Yeah. Jan Halper Hayes goes on the BBC and says, well, here's what happened. Donald Trump says you're going to have to give up the gold. You're going to have to give up the treasure. That includes in the Vatican. And that 64 planes, C-130s, huge planes, carried out all this loot, busted out from these bad guys around the world back to America, $64 quadrillion worth of stuff, right? Which would totally right America. Now, okay, let's say that's a complete speculation, but she did say it on the BBC and nobody countered it, right? So, but Donald Trump fooled everybody when he fooled me. I thought Hillary was going to win, right? But his presidential candidacy in 2016 was carried out like a military operation, and they figured out how to win the Electoral College, right? And he did win the Electoral College, and he was president. And it fooled them. It just fooled all the bad guys who's been doing this thing for a long time. And so then what does Hillary do? Hillary comes up with and paid for this. Hillary pays for, after he's elected, pays for the Steele dossier but Richard Steele, this disgraced English intelligence guy. The worst claims in the world about Donald Trump, that he was in a hotel in Russia with a bunch of hookers and he stood up on the bed and peed on the bed. It was just garbage. The kind of things that Bill Clinton probably did, So John Brennan, who was the head of the CIA, who's a total communist, who's going to go to jail eventually here, and it gets 51 intelligence people to write a letter saying that this is all true. Donald Trump should not be president. He's a threat to America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the amassing of the horrible people and horrible lies against him has continued to this day, and he fought through it in the first administration, right? But he wasn't able to fight through the chicanery when he ran against Joe Biden, and I'm going to get into some of that when we cover Joe Biden, right? And for me, the most poignant aspect of that was when when I was watching, I switched from Fox when Brett Baier got on the 2020 thing and said, well, we're calling it for Arizona. And I'm like, what? How in the hell? So I switched to Newsmax. And so they had on Dick Morris, who, basically knows what's going on behind the scenes and all these deals and has forever. And then they shut off the voting in Pennsylvania, if you remember. And Morris explained very casually on the air that what they were going to do. And then they had the thing in Georgia. They had to turn it off because there was a leak in water mains, which was a total lie. And Morris says, well, what they're going to do is they're going to go figure out how many votes they need to make the difference in Pennsylvania, and then they'll come up with them overnight, and then Biden will win the election. And I thought, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But then, of course, it turned out to be right. And so that's how they beat Trump, supposedly beat Trump in the presidential election. So in 2020, they didn't. But in 20, which I'll get into the next time when we talk about Biden, I honestly think that it's a true thing that Donald Trump has been participant with the U.S. military and people behind the scenes for quite a long time, because he's been fighting a worldwide battle against not just crooked politicians and creepy companies, but true evil, sex trafficking, all that sort of stuff. And he has been the tip of the spear against an unbelievable evil around the world. And we're finally going to start finding out about it probably next month. And some of these people are going to get prosecuted. One thing about the Obama thing, Obama is getting roundly attacked, and things are coming out about him. Malik Obama, his brother, publishes visual proof of Barack's Kenya birth certificate, So, I don't know if that's absolutely true or not, but the difference that is happening now, it's kind of like the fervor about the positive things happening when Donald Trump was in his first term, which kind of got obscured with the horrors of the Biden presidency. These things are kind of being put back in place in his second term, and they're raising hell about all kinds of stuff. The Israel thing, Charlie Kirk, all that sort of stuff. But he's continuing. He survived through the Biden administration. America survived through the Biden administration. And if you believe Derek Johnson on Twitter and his thing, when Donald Trump was on his way out in 2016, he put in place some orders that made him a continuing wartime president who was not president but remained commander in chief, right? And we'll get into that next time. The whole deal about the nuclear codes and the briefcase were never surrendered to Biden and all that sort of stuff. But there's many more videos we could have played, but Donald Trump did it.
Yes, he did.
He did it. If not for Donald Trump, we wouldn't have an America with his first
I have
term.
one question before we end. In The Simpsons, there was a sign there that said 2028.
Yeah. I don't know. There's this whole deal of JD Vance could run and win with Donald
And he
Trump
could be
as
VP?
vice president, and JD says, "Oh, okay, well, I'm turning it back over to Donald. Donald's president again." I don't know what's going to happen. Something really amazing is going to happen. It would take.
There's nothing constitutionally that says that you can't be a VP after you've been a P,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would take 2/3 of the states to get rid of the amendment that limited the presidents to 2 terms, right? I kind of think what's going to happen in the next month and then in the next year might very well convince enough Americans to go, yeah, hell yeah, let's let him have another term.
Right.
Now,
well, Bannon seems to think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, who does?
Bannon.
Oh yeah. Bannon thinks it's a lock. Steve Bannon thinks it's a lock, and he might be onto something. So, but I tell you, God bless Donald Trump. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for Donald Trump. He certainly has had his faults, but without him, we might never have had an America. Yeah,
I absolutely concur. This has been a fabulous hour and a half for the America's Golden Eon AGE, which this is Skip Press's baby. He created it, and I just went along for the ride.
I learned so much.
You made it happen. Yeah.
I want to thank you for all of your fabulous work and all the things that you do. Where can people find you?
Skip Press on X, skippress.com. I have a few books for sale on Amazon, Destiny Redo. Donald Trump has redone the destiny of America. So go check out that book. People like it.
Excellent. And Jen Marie, where can people find you? Author of Marketing is Mind Control.
Yes, you can type that into your URL bar with a .com and see if it comes up. It should. If not, it's on Amazon or just on X, the Nerd in Charge. You can just DM me and stuff like that.
Excellent. And you can find me on the Wake Nation Monday through Friday. That's 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. And you can find that on the David Zublik channel on Rumble. You can also find me on the Agent X11 channel. And on Fridays, we do 3 shows. So we're getting ready to do another one. We're going to eject from this one, True Crime. It's coming up next. And we've got a fabulous guest on that. So stay with us. We will be I hear my alarm going off. We will be in that room very shortly. Everyone in this room will eject, and we'll see you on the second round. We're out of time, so we're out of here. Shepherd out.
No doubt.
Skip out.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Check out our true crime episodes Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget to watch our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. Yeah.